Macro change. Make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality. Macro change the world. This is Michael. Um, I've got this mini series that I'm going to be going through. It's called the Leadership Anchor, and this is going to be a series of mini form, just videos, kind of talking about the tension that leaders run into, especially with management. It's just kind of like things that I have experienced in my time. And then these are kind of like hot points that lead to different things within your organization. There's still going to be scripture involved in this, but I just wanted to just kind of switch it up just a little bit. So today we're going to be talking about daily monitoring versus micromanagement. Daily monitoring versus micromanagement. There's differences. If I'm saying I'm going to daily monitor something, that means I'm looking at it every day, but it can feel like micromanagement to those who receive that message, right? So there's a tension that many leaders face. Many of us face this tension. Like, we want accountability, we want productivity, and we want standards to be upheld. But then a question comes: are we leading, or are we starting to micromanage? Like, there's this tension that's inside us. Are we leading, or are we micromanaging? And this tension shows up whenever, like, you're doing a monitoring session and the productivity dips. Like, when you start to review metrics, and then you start doing like these reviews of the daily expectations. So then that's when the daily monitoring replaces the monthly review. So like when we going from a month to a day, there's a tension inside, like, man, am I micromanaging these people? So how do we know the difference? How do we know the difference? And so let's anchor this. This is what's called the leadership anchor. So in 1 Corinthians 14:40, it says, let all things be done decently and in order. We have to understand that God is a God of order. First of all, he rules us with order, right? And if we are God-like in nature, that means that it is in us innately to like order. Like I said before, we are people who are orderly. We are orderly people, okay? So we do everything in order. We like order. We like organization. We call our businesses organizations for a reason, because they're structured, okay? But we've got to understand God is not a God of confusion. So there's not a God of chaos. He's a God of order. So, but order in Scripture is also to understand that it's not mean control, okay? Order creates clarity. Control creates dependency, okay? So that distinction matters in leadership. So if you're trying to lead someone and you have a role as an administrator, okay, you have to figure out how to not step into this thing called control when you step from monitoring things from a monthly standpoint or a weekly standpoint to a daily, okay? So let's define this. Micromanagement is not oversight. You're not an overseer if you're micromanaging anything, right? Micromanagement is the excessive involvement that reduces the ownership, okay, of the things or the people that you are managing, okay? So if you call me your manager and you are micromanaging me, that means you're excessively involved, and you reduce the ownership in which me as the subordinate has. So you're reducing the amount of ownership that I feel that I actually have in my job. That's micromanagement. Leadership oversight, on the other hand, is about clarity. The byproduct of giving oversight just means, hey, I'm going to clarify this for you. I'm giving you clarity, okay? Micromanagement creates anxiety in people, okay? When you micromanage them, one biggest thing is the anxiety that they feel, okay? So to reduce that, just provide clarity, not micromanagement, okay? Oversight asks an important question. Oversight, a person with oversight says, how can I support performance? And this is a personal question you need to ask yourself as a leader. How can I support performance? What is it that I need to do to help my people increase their performance? Because clearly there's been a dip. There's something going on. What do I need to do differently? Okay. Micromanagement asks, why aren't they doing it my way? Or why aren't they doing this? So it's not a matter of why. We don't want to know why this happened. What we want to know is, how can I support you? There's a difference. What can I do to support you? How can I support you in this? Okay, there's a difference. One builds trust. Oversight builds trust. The other builds tension. Micromanagement builds tension. If your staff is tense, then it's micromanagement, right? But here's a deeper truth. Leaders who monitor daily without empowering them properly often reveal a deeper message. And that message is fear. And it's the fear of underperforming, the fear of being blamed, and also the fear of losing control. But we understand that fear is not a fruit of the Spirit. So here's the question, and it's regarding awareness. When you increase monitoring, what happens to your team's behavior? So ask that, think about that. So if you are in a leadership position and you've been, tasked to look at things on a daily basis now because things are getting tight budgetarily, or we want to make sure we're doing this initiative before a push. When you increase monitoring, what happens to your team's behavior? Think about it. Do they take initiative, or do they wait for your instructions? Okay. Do they communicate early in asking questions? Are they curious, or do they hide mistakes? Are they starting to dug off? Maybe you won't see that, cut corners. Okay. If daily monitoring increases transparency and improves conversations, it's healthy. Okay. So we want to create an environment, even with, as leaders, if the expectation for me is to kind of look at this thing daily, we have to create transparency and improve conversation with our teams, right? That's healthy. It creates silence and defensiveness. If it creates silence and defensiveness, it is most likely you're controlling, right? We move into this place of management where we go into the pillar of control, right? And that leads to silence and defensiveness. So if nobody's talking, there's a problem, right? Pressure does not create culture. So when you apply pressure to somebody, it just reveals culture. So it reveals what they've learned, right? So if I'm applying pressure to somebody, what it is you're revealing to them, you are trying to get out of them what they've learned, okay? That's a good provocation technique for people. It's to reveal what they've learned. Okay. So let's place this inside my idea of change. Okay. What box does this fit? This is inside administration. Can I manage this? Okay. This is about sustainability of your leadership. Okay. Administration asks, can we manage what we measure? Right? Can we manage what we're measuring? So like on a monitoring system, if it's productivity, can we manage what we're measuring, right? Does this data make sense? So biblical administration is considered stewardship, not domination. Yes, God gave us dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every creeping thing along the ground, but he did not give us dominion over each other, okay? So we have to understand that. Healthy administration clarifies our expectations. It measures our progress, and it adjusts strategy to develop our people. Unhealthy administration, however, polices behavior. I'm in the business. What you doing? Why you do it like that? Why you do it like that? It reacts emotionally. Okay. It overcorrects, and it replaces coaching with control. I'm Coach King. I ain't trying to control you. I'm trying to coach. I'm a coach. I'm gonna build you, right? Strong leaders don't just monitor work; they build the capacity, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to increase your capacity so that we can hit our numbers. That's how I can help you, right? Because the goal isn't just dependency. The goal is developing other people, and we want transparency in conversations, right? So here, I'm going to challenge whoever's listening, and if you're in a leader here, I'm going to challenge you. If your involvement increases clarity, confidence, and ownership, it's leadership. Okay? You're a leader. If your involvement increases dependency, fear, and hesitation, it's micromanagement. Okay? So ask yourself as a leader this week, are my systems producing growth or compliance? Are my systems producing growth or compliance? And remember, there's a difference. So here's your practice. Here's your homework. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. Here's my coaching tip. Before reviewing any kind of report from a daily basis, ask your team one question. What barriers are impacting output right now? What barriers? What's frustrating you about what it is that you're currently doing? And you know what that does? That shifts the posture of the room. It shifts the posture, okay? And it moves it from accusation to alignment, from pressure, from putting that pressure cooker on people to reveal what they've learned. Instead of doing that, move it to a partnership with them. And when leaders shift the posture of the room, the culture shifts with them. The culture changes, okay? It's healthy. People want to come to work, okay? So remember, leadership is not about control. It's about stewardship. Order without love becomes rigidity. Structure without development becomes suppression. Anchor yourself in truth. Lead with clarity. Build people, not just numbers. Make real change. Make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality to make real change in the world. Peace out.